Good afternoon, CUBE community, and welcome back to fabulous, sunny Las Vegas, Nevada. We're here midway through day 2 at Google Cloud Next. My name's Savannah Peterson, bringing you all the best and brightest from the show floor with Dave Vellante this week. Dave, we're talking about security.
Yeah, one of my favorite topics.
This is one of your favorite topics. Security's really grown on us a lot lately.
It is, because it's so difficult and like an impossible problem to solve, so.
You know why I like it? I think it has some of the most earnest people in the industry because they truly are the kind of quiet good guys out there fighting the good fight.
Yeah, superheroes.
Yeah, they are. They are definitely superheroes. Speaking of superheroes, we have two to my right. Sean and Peter, thank you so much for hanging out.
You bet.
Couple of CUBE alumni. Peter, you and I even got to sit down about 6 months ago. I'm feeling this is becoming a regular gig. We'll put you in the host seat next time. This is going to be great.
He would be a great host.
he would be a great host. Honestly, y'all.
Photogenic, he's much better.
Oh God.
Here
we go.
Everything. But the sense of humor is got to be from both of you because that's very clear. So I won't take all that self-deprecation on this segment, Sean. Don't you worry. I'm excited because we are, agents, agentic, definitely the hype and buzzword bingo of the moment right now. However, no one on this stage has talked about agentic-driven security yet at the show, and I think this is going to be awesome. Sean, I'll open with you since I haven't had a chance to interview you before.
Okay.
What is agentic AI-driven security, and what does that mean?
Well, I think it means many different things to people, but...
Which is why I'm asking you to define it once and for all.
I know, I'm trying.
No pressure.
I'm trying. Listen, I think so many things in security operations over the past several years, we've gone to the automation phase and how we're doing it. Now we're really moving into agents. We're not talking about just prompts. We're actually talking about agents that are acting independently, reasoning across systems, that are actually making decisions. So for, Peter and I have talked about this, where I do think with unified security and what Google is putting out that they announced during the conference, but it is a way to bring, I think, all these disparate pieces of security operations together in one place that's going to actually help defend against the adversary. Now, obviously the opposite side of that is the adversaries are doing the same thing coming from the other side.
And how do you combat then from an adversarial perspective? Peter, I'm going to ask you, how are you ensuring that you stay one fingernail ahead of the competition? Because everyone's innovating.
First of all, we don't say ensuring in cybersecurity.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Trying our best.
There's no insurer. There's no insurer.
That's so true. And we did have the cybersecurity insurance folks on yesterday, so this is all very topical because you can't say that it's insured. Anyway, carry on, Peter.
Yeah, no. So listen, I think on some level, cybersecurity is very basic in terms of, there's a bunch of best practices. If you follow those best practices, you're going to reduce the size of the problem, and then you're going to point a bunch of your technology at the remaining problem. And what I mean by that is, even today, companies that aren't doing an assessment of their posture, they're not doing multi-factor authentication, they're not doing micro-segmentation of their networks, these are things that motherhood and apple pie you have to go do, right? And if you aren't doing those basics, you're just going to put yourself in a much, much worse position. And so for the customers that have done all those things, then they get into much more advanced ways they can defend themselves by looking at specific parts of the attack surface. You can analyze that. In the old days before agents, it's people and spreadsheets and analysis and maybe some ML in there, which is more of a rules-based AI. But this next step is, what Sean's point is, now you're introducing reasoning and more intelligent analysis. And so we're imagining that there's an automation of those functions in the security operation that are looking at threats, trying to analyze and do a threat analysis, to turn that into a detection, to go chase something that looks bad. And by automating that, you can go much faster, much more often, and spend more of your time strategically thinking about your risk posture and the next thing, which might be zero trust or something else you want to go chase. And so that's a huge opportunity.
No, the other thing though, Peter, I would say is, I think when people say security operations, they think of the security analyst at their desk dealing with alerts, right? And I go back to I think it's security operations like defense in depth, where you start at the browser level, right? You're also looking at the threat intelligence, what you have, going into the security operations, how are you orchestrating that? So it's not the old security, SecOps that I think the normal person thinks of. And then I would say the to me, the big differentiator is, how are you going to push that value upstream? So you got the SecOps here, everyone's saying we're going to do managed services, we're going to do this. What's the value you're pushing up there to change business process or the way you're doing things? I think that's a critical point.
You remember one of the first interviews you and I ever did with Lena Smart? You guys know Lena? She's the CISO of MongoDB. She's like, just don't ever click on links.
Yeah, no,
she. Like, what do you mean? She goes, don't ever click on links, period.
Yeah, remember my first comment, it's very simple on some level, like don't click
That's
the
what
link.
made me think of that, Peter.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so I had an opportunity, that's right.
We need them.
I had an opportunity to sit down with Nir Zook a couple weeks ago, and he put forth the premise, and I've been wanting to ask Google about this, and Sean, I'd love your thoughts as well. He basically said, forget everything we've done with cybersecurity, you're going to throw it out. It's AI and automation render all our existing security useless. I'm like, explain that. He goes, well, previously we could stop 99% of the attacks, but in that 1% humans could sort of deal with. But now with AI and automation and Gen AI, the attackers can overwhelm us with better phishing emails, and it's just at scale. So humans can't handle it.
Yep.
So the only way to fight AI, attackers is with AI.
Yep.
So my question is security a do-over? My context of that is, a couple of cloud service providers, I would say Google and Amazon, on your end, I think you got it covered as well as anybody can be expected. But there's that shared responsibility model.
Of course.
So, and from that standpoint, and based on Nir's commentary, is security a do-over?
It's a great question. It's probably not a total do-over, but it is a big change. And what I mean by that is, to sort of use the comment you were referencing earlier, it's kind of like, you were up against one individual trying to make their way through your network through a kill chain, and maybe a good analogy is like a denial of service attack where you're trying to really go take down a website, right? In a kill chain, you've got all these kind of points where the hacker is trying to go laterally and find a server and find a target and get X, Y, Z. Imagine that happening like a denial of service attack where at every point you're getting just massive flush of activity across the whole attack surface. And that's where it's like no human can deal with that, right? So you have to have AI that's on the other side of that is dealing with that. And I think the other point is that if perimeter security is not going to be helpful anymore and microsegmentation only helps so much and all that, at some point there's sort of this kind of shift left thinking where it's how do you get closer to the problem, and are we just kind of shooting telemetry into AI itself that's going to be able to go off and resolve those issues at sort of the speed of machine speed, right? And I think that's probably what he was referencing, is that there's a longer term view of like, hey, is this like we're trying to build a model that can predict the weather, right? That can go out there and look at a massive data set, understand it, understand the attack paths someone would take, patch all those up and actively be able to defend that environment. And so down the road, 20, 30 years, there's sort of the scenario that machines defend themselves. And that kind of science fiction thing is something people are thinking about today.
And Sean, my takeaway from that was that security companies and security consultancies actually have to be AI companies.
Yes and no. So obviously we're all adopting it, like we said we weren't going to say AI, but of course, but it is like, so I'm on the do-over, I'm not a total buy-in, because the fundamentals stay the same. Like if you look at the MITRE ATT&CK framework, it's still going to stay the same. What's my entry point, what's my reconnaissance, all the way to sort of how am I going to move laterally, but it's just going to be done differently. So to me, it's looking at how do we sort of face off against, I think, Peter, what you were saying, that machine speed to machine speed, and you get all into self-healing networks. So I'm not worried, like, security is the last thing that's going to go away.
So it's not a do-over, it's a do different.
It's a do different. I like that, Dave. It's definitely a do different. Consultancies, if I had to say, security consultancies are the only things that are going to last. Because I mean that, because as technology evolves even quicker, right, we are going to evolve with the technology. So of course I'm turning into, I'm not big on like, everyone's an AI company. Like you do what you do, but you're going to use the latest technology.
And I think, Sean and his firm are critical in this transformation, because we don't want to ask every company on the planet to become an expert in the new thing and have to manage it on their own. That's crazy, right? They're selling their widgets, making their thing, whatever. Sean and his firm, they have to be that strategic partner that is guiding that company through that transition and driving the transition and all of that, and that it's, any big change is going to require that.
Dave, as you were saying, and Savannah, like, it comes down to risk. Like, we're all talking about this stuff, it comes down to risk. And I always say every company has a digital backbone. Every company today has a digital backbone. How are you protecting that? I don't care where we are, agentic AI, what's the next thing after that? How are we going to actually defend against that? And as you two probably know, the big thing now is offensive security. Mm-hmm. What does that mean? So, it's a whole nother topic.
Peacetime, wartime, right, the whole deal. So every year before RSA, our partner ETR, and we do a survey. And one of the things we ask is, are you able to reduce the number of tool sets? Because the platform guys say, too many tools. You got to consolidate. Yeah. When you talk to practitioners, they say, very few will say, yes, we're reducing our, the number of vendors in our security stack. So I ask you guys, is too many tools part of the problem, or is it going to continue to be part of the solution because new threats come in, some new startup comes in, and it fills the gap? What do you guys think about that?
Well, I have an answer, but this is your bread and butter, so I want to let you go first.
This is your wheelhouse, Sean.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I am actually, if you asked me that same question 3 years ago, I would say we needed a lot of those point solutions. I think when we look at the work that Peter and Google are doing in unified security, listen, is every part of that best in breed? No. But are they getting better and better every day? And when you look at like threat intelligence, that's the best in the business, right? So there are certain parts of it, but then you get to the point of how complex do I want my security fabric? And I would argue I am leaning more and more towards going to what's a simplified platform that I can leverage.
You can't talk about Wiz, can you?
I cannot.
No, okay.
There's an army of lawyers standing over here
I get it.
ready to tackle me. So.
But I can comment. But that was a great example of a startup that came out of nowhere and focused on, they made it really simple to do posture management.
Yeah.
100%.
And customers said, wow, that's going to solve a problem. I'm going there. And it worked.
And so to build on that though, simple is really powerful, right? Simple is powerful. Think about also trying to bring people in your organization to become proficient and protect that organization. How hard it is to train people if your environment's incredibly complex.
Oh yeah.
So simplicity, there's very big power to that. And the other thing Sean said, which is I think is just super critical, is we're ultimately trying to create a security data fabric that can grab all the data, all the telemetry, all the visibility, and put it in a place that you can normalize it, enrich it, and analyze it, whether it's humans or AI that's doing that. That's what we've got to enable. And so tool consolidation is to some extent solving that problem. It's also solving some toil and those sorts of things. But I would tell you also, when you talk to a CISO, that's not the first thing on their list. Their first thing is making sure they have a strong risk posture, regardless of the tool sets, right? And then they start looking at the costs and the toil and those things and go from there. But fundamentally, that risk posture always guides the day.
100%.
Yeah, it's much more outcome based in that circumstance, which makes a lot of sense. Offensive security is something we talked a lot about at MWise. I think that came up in every interview or just about. I'm curious. You talked about bringing people into the organization and that simplicity, that unification, that user experience, quite frankly, of whatever they're looking at in terms of the threat landscape and attack surface is really important. I'm curious what your advice is to a young and ambitious cybersecurity professional or someone who just is listening to this conversation and thinks you guys sound really cool. What would you tell them in terms of this skill set to position themselves for the cybersecurity companies of the future? Sean, I'm going to you first because you're sitting
all right,
here in my hot seat.
I'll take it.
You were warned about me.
No, I am telling you, I think we're in a place where we're all aware of 4+ million shortage in cybersecurity professionals, right? I'm not concerned about how much they know about cybersecurity, as how much aptitude do they have, what's their sort of curiosity about that topic. I don't actually even care if they have a degree. I don't.
Good on you.
No, I think it's more important about, hey, the willingness to jump in there and learn, because, as Dave mentioned, like, talk about that redo, like, we're all learning now about, like, how we're going to change this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not like they're so far behind. So to me, it's like anyone, listening today, we all come from very different backgrounds, right? And I just think it's real important that if you're worried about job security, come do cybersecurity.
Yeah, baby.
Right? Because it's always going to be around, it's exciting, you're doing a good thing for the companies, for our national economy, for our national security. Yeah. I think it is a mission-driven type of focus, and I think it's very rewarding.
This is why I said I like the cybersecurity.
It's kind of like golf. You can never master it, right? I mean, you know what I'm saying? With golf, like, you think you got it, and then all of a sudden. I want to ask you guys about
well, I was curious,
I
wanted Peter to give his advice on that and answer that question as well.
Please.
Well, something we talk about all the time at Google is the mission. Because it's why we get out of bed in the morning, it's why we're working weekends, it's because there is a real mission there to help our customers, the community, and it's really cool to be able to wake up every day doing something that has real purpose and impact. So I would echo that, and it's a wonderful career to get into. I think that you can absolutely enter cybersecurity at any level, right? And it is but you got to be curious. Things that you may want to start thinking about are even data science, right? Analysis, being an analytical person, right? We have people that come in through the threat intel side, which is a very analytical, kind of side. We have people that come in from the CS side. We also have people that come in from being really great at dealing with the customer and coming up that chain too. So I would just sort of say, if you take an interest in cyber, and you do some reading up on cyber, it is an industry anyone can get into, and we need a lot of people. We need people that are motivated, and the sky's the limit, because there's tailwinds, and I think the one thing we always have job security and an addiction to caffeine. Those are the two things? Yeah.
And alcohol.
And okay.
This would be a good topic.
That was code. Caffeine was code.
This would be,
See how slow I am?
But this would be a good topic to end on, but I don't want to end. I want to go back to do differently. So pick your data point in terms of exfiltration times. Hours, sometimes minutes. Yep. Used to be weeks or months. So my question as it relates to do differently is a data question. There's always a data problem.
Yeah.
So in thinking about real-time analysis, threat detection, and remediation, how do you approach, because attackers are compressing the time it takes to exfiltrate data, how do you approach doing things in real time from a data standpoint? Is it consolidating the data? Is it having access to the right data in real time? How do you deal with the real-time imperative?
Yeah, so yes, and yes. Yeah, it is largely about data and analytics at speed and scale, and we're moving from human to ML to now more of an agentic approach that can look at that. But there's various levels to look at, the perimeter, the interior, and so the trick is, in my judgment, is that visibility thing. Having data in a place where it's normalized, that you can act on that data very, very quickly is really critical. But more and more, again, I'll come back to some best practices, things like microsegmentation that slow the attackers down. There are things you can do that, by the time they get to exfiltration, it takes them a long time to get there. It is something where you can also put sensors in the network to start seeing activity, and so it does come back to it's a data problem. But the other piece is then also the knowledge of what to look for, and so the threat indicators, IOCs, all that good stuff, and again, that's also a data problem, but this game requires visibility, knowledge, and expertise. You got to have all three, right? And you got to put that together to operate at speed, and then it'll go faster and faster and faster as we're able to leverage AI.
But Dave, listen, Peter, I agree with everything you said, but I do think it comes back to, like, are we talking about the data in the SecOps, which is usually metadata and those type of things, and then data, right? And I think people don't look at the data lifecycle where, okay, where am I obtaining, creating, retaining, like going through the data lifecycle, deleting, actually get rid of the data, and then what data am I actually going to encrypt or tokenize make quantum resistant. Like, I don't think people spend enough time doing that.
Crown jewels. Crown jewels. What are the crown jewels?
100%.
Yeah.
And it's risk-based. We come back to risk.
Back to risk.
And then you get back to, okay, how do I then take that data, how am I protecting it, and then I move to the SecOps where you're kind of leveraging all the analytics in that space on metadata.
Since you mentioned quantum, somebody said the other day, somebody was asking about quantum the other day, and the person said, hackers don't need quantum. They're doing fine without it. Agree, disagree? What's your take on quantum as a threat?
All right, so I am definitely not smart enough to answer this question the right way, but I will tell you this. I think there's a little, I think quantum computing being generally available to the folks walking around here is years away. However, I think doing quantum resistant encryption is here now.
Yeah.
Because what we're seeing, and Mandiant has done this with Google, we're seeing nation states, hoovering up, right, vacuuming up all of even the encrypted data with the hopes of decrypting that at a later time. So I think it's really important on that quantum resistant encryption. That's the act now. Quantum computing, I think we got a little space there.
1,000%. If you have sensitive data, government, financial, healthcare, you should be adopting those advanced encryption methodologies immediately, because for sure, what you just described, the hoovering up of the data is happening, and is needed.
I am very curious to see when Y2Q ends up showing up. It's been the convo, a little bit of a whisper convo.
Can I just add something to advice?
Yes.
You want to get into cyber, you got to be really good at acronyms.
Yeah.
Oh my God, yes.
That is the truth.
Yes, for
okay,
sure.
one final question and I'll wrap us up here to keep you guys on time. When we're hanging out at Google Cloud Next, or the next time I see you at a show, because it's becoming more frequently, what do you hope to be able to say then that you can't say today? Peter, I'm going to go to you first since I had you recently.
So how far is the show from now? Is it
a year.
A year from now, oh gosh.
Or 6 months, whatever
or 2 years if you want.
Yeah.
I think my hope is that we have made a multiple, I was going to even say an order of magnitude efficiency gain in the security operation through these agentic capabilities. That is our ambition. And that's a huge, huge help to CISOs and their teams and those security operations. And so that is our #1 goal right now.
Let's go with 10x, and maybe not in a year, but let's go with 10x.
Yep.
That's where we want to be.
Yep.
Yeah, what about you, Sean?
I hope we can say that we've leveled the playing field as far as with the adversaries.
Ooh.
Yeah, I really do. I don't think we're doing enough in the public and private sector around the world globally. And there just has to be a little bit more transparency, and I think as we move at machine speed, we're going to have to get together to actually solve that issue.
All right, well, we look forward to checking back in with you a year from now to see how those predictions panned out. Peter and Sean, thank you so much. This has been an absolutely outstanding segment. Cool. I know that Dave and I could have gone on all afternoon, so we appreciate your patience.
Thank you
very much, appreciate it.
Thank you as always, and thank all of you for tuning in to our coverage here at Google Cloud Next in Las Vegas, Nevada. My name's Savannah Peterson. You're watching theCUBE, the leading source for enterprise tech news.